All right, welcome in, my fellow Americans. It's time for another brand new episode of the Politics and Punk Rock Podcast. I am your host, Andrew for America. Lots going on out in the world, people. Lots of craziness, lots of lies and manipulation happening. Don't trust your algorithms so much would be my advice for the episode today. So I wanted to start the show by saying a couple things. If you enjoy my podcast and you think I have something valuable to share with the world, please give me a 5-star review and or share your favorite podcast episode with others on social media or via email. Whichever way you like to communicate with people, I would greatly appreciate it. And I will continue to bring you entertaining conversations to the best of my ability. Today, my guest is pretty awesome. This guy is a Renaissance man of sorts. He is multifaceted, according to his bio. He's an artist, writer, illustrator, professor, media consultant. The man wears many hats. And he has been on Infowars. He worked with Alex Jones for 10 years. He has been a member of the Make America Healthy Again campaign, working with RFK Jr. And today his story is kind of a story of personal moral crises that a lot of us feel and go through in this world, where we set ourselves in motion down the road to achieve certain goals, and during that quest, during that journey, you realize that you're not on the right road and you got to get on and do a different road. What you were doing, you have a moral dilemma with. You don't feel so great about the kind of person you are when you are doing certain jobs, when you're committing certain acts in the world, when you think you're so sure of yourself and you preach and protest about things that maybe you're not so sure of and you're not very educated about. Today's one of those stories where in Mr. Anthony Freda, my guest today's case, he decided that Jesus Christ and moving closer to God was what worked for him to help him sleep at night, as he will say on the show today. Here, let me show you some of his artwork. He is famous for some very controversial art, and this is his press pack page that I thought was pretty cool. So let me bring this in. Here we go. Anthony Freda, from Madison Avenue to Christ's Path. Anthony is an artist, educator, activist, and digital designer whose passion for peace and human dignity drives every creative endeavor. And then here it goes on to say that he's an award-winning and provocative illustrator. His work has been in many publications. And here are some of his paintings. There's one right there. He just did this sculptural garden feature, The Face of Jesus Park. And that's pretty cool. Great artist. Let me get down here. I wanted to show you this. I wanted to find. Here we go. This is what I was looking for. Sorry, I'm trying to maneuver around here. Here's a couple of his paintings here. Quite controversial, obviously. Pentagram within this one here. Very, occult and godlike, good versus evil, spiritual symbology here, right? This is cool. This looks like a Tool Alex Gray design in a way, and then he's got the crown of thorns on Jesus here. I mean, this is awesome stuff. Clearly, he's a very talented guy, and so that's that. He has been on the Brad Leah show That was the video clip I just showed you, or that you just saw on his bio sheet there, where he exposes government lies about Epstein, big pharma, and corruption. So yeah, so one of the things I found interesting that he told me in this episode today is same thing that Jonathan Cooey, biologist Jonathan Cooey, that worked with RFK Jr. in the past when I had him on the show. Both of these gentlemen, Mr. Anthony Freda today and Jonathan Cooey, both said of RFK Jr. that he absorbs data and information and studies, and that he doesn't say anything publicly without being very, very researched and having done the work. And I have to have the utmost respect for that, because almost nobody, my fellow Americans, is doing that these days. Few people are doing the research people like me are doing, the people like Sam Winchester are doing, many other podcasters out there. Some are much, much more researched than others. And that comes through on everybody's show. I don't need to name names or point fingers. You can hear it, you can see it in the content, that some people clearly know what they're talking about more than others. And so, yeah, what else did I want to say about Mr. Anthony Freda that he won't end up telling you in the show today? Yeah, we kind of start the episode talking about when he worked in advertising. He was on the Joe Camel campaign, and he kind of talks about propaganda and Edward Bernays, and how they used these tactics to sell anything from products to wars in the media to vaccines that they say are effective and safe, right? That was what he had his moral dilemma with, was working with these companies who clearly had non-Christian, non-godlike intentions, in his humble opinion. So, great chat today. I hope you guys enjoy the show. So go grab a beverage, strap on your seatbelts, and allow me to present to you, when we come back from this commercial break, episode 243 of the Politics and Punk Rock podcast, entitled The Thought Crimes of Anthony Freda. And I titled it that today is because he is soon going to be coming out with a book with 40 years of his artwork that he's going to show you in his book, his upcoming book entitled The Thought Crimes of Anthony Freda. And at the end of the episode today, I'll play you a promo video of that book towards the end of the chat today. So, like I said, go grab a beverage, strap on your seatbelts, people. Right after this commercial, I'll be right back. All right, people, welcome back to the show. That was the video for Mr. Anthony Freda's upcoming book, The Thought Crimes of Anthony Freda. I do play it at the end of the episode today. I wanted to start this segment off and the intro into the conversation today with that, because I want to give you guys a little idea of the man before we have the pleasure of talking with him today. And I also want, really quick, before we get into the chat, to show you that Mr. Anthony Freda also has a Substack you guys should go check out. And here, let me show you. Where is it at? Here we go. So this is one of the things he wrote here, my tenure with little Hitler. And there you go. You can subscribe to his Substack again. Mr. Anthony Freda, very controversial guy, man of many hats, Renaissance man. Used to work with Alex Jones on Infowars, used to work on the Maha campaign, Make America Healthy Again with RFK Jr. Great chat, very conspiratorial. We dive deep today. And so let's get it going without further ado. Here's Anthony Freda. And really quick, before we get to the chat, sorry, I got to remind you of one more thing. I kind of had his volume turned down a little bit in this episode today, and it's a little annoying. I'm a little loud in the mix. He's a little quiet in the mix. So just for today, just for this episode, if you wouldn't mind, just turning him up when he's speaking and turning me down when I speak. I know it's a little ask of you. Today's going to be a little bit more interactive for the listener or the viewer with the volume. So I know what I did wrong. I fixed it. So apologize for my bonehead move. I will make sure that I do not do that in the future. So here we go. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the show, Mr. Anthony Freda. All right, everybody, welcome back to the show. Today, joining us is artist, writer, author, professor, media consultant, a true Renaissance man, Anthony Freda. Sir, welcome to the show. How you doing?
I'm great, Andrew. Thanks for having me.
So I'm excited to chat with you today. I was checking out your bio, and your story is really fascinating about your moral dilemmas you speak about that kind of led you to Jesus Christ. And I wanted to kind of start the show with giving my audience a little background on your story, starting with when you worked in advertising for the Joe Camel campaign. Can you start us off by talking about that?
Yeah, sure. So that was way back in the old days, 80s and 90s. I was working on that. You know, I got out of art school, went to Pratt in Brooklyn in 1984. And then I had these dreams. I'm going to be this big famous artist. And, you know, it didn't work.
I can relate. I thought I was going to be a big famous rock star in my younger years, so I can relate.
Yeah, I want to be a rock star too, but I had everything except the talent. I mean, I had the hair. I was into metal and the whole thing. But anyway, yeah, so I got into advertising because it was a paying job. And it was also a great experience, man. I learned a lot about the professional world and how it works and deadlines and all that. And then I worked for about a year, and I decided to start my own advertising studio. So we did artwork for all the major, like, Fortune 500 companies. And one of our clients was J.R. Reynolds Tobacco, I think. And they were doing this campaign at the time. I don't know if it's probably before your time, but they were these cartoon camels, and they were like playing pool, and they had the hot camel chick, you know, behind them.
Sure.
And they're all smoking. It was like they were paying us a lot of money, and it was a great gig. And I bought a condo in New York, in Manhattan. I think, man, I'm on top of the world. And like, I'm drawing cartoons, and I'm getting paid very well for it. And then the FTC deemed that our campaign was illegal because we were marketing cigarettes to minors because of the cartoon nature of the advertisements. And I just had this, moral crisis. And I said, man, I didn't become an artist because I wanted to sell cigarettes to kids. You know, what am I doing with my life?
Sure.
So I started questioning my life choices, and I said, that's it. I'm done with advertising. And I got to see, like, the dirty side of advertising, how they use mass psychological manipulation and preyed on people's weaknesses, their vanity, their greed, the darker side of using psychological manipulation to nudge human behavior into buying their product, right? And a lot 100%. Of that was, I mean, you know about it. So,
yep.
And a lot of that was informed by the ideas of Edward Bernays, who wrote the book Propaganda, 1920. He worked for the government and for advertising agencies. It's funny because his first gig was selling cigarettes to women. he called them freedom torches, and he linked the cigarettes with women's liberation. Like, don't let a man tell you not to smoke. So anyway,
I think I told that story on my show way back in the day. Yeah, it's fascinating.
He's a fascinating character, and very, he should be more widely studied, because a lot of the propaganda they use to sell all kinds of things, from war to vaccines to cigarettes, using his techniques that he developed. But so I said, you know what, I'm going to go work for the good guys, right? And that time I was politically pretty naive. I was still a young man. And I said, I want to work for the New York Times. And I want to work for places like that. Like, I thought they were like, the truth tellers, and they were challenging the big corporations and the war machine. And
you mean all the publications you've worked for? Because you've worked for a lot: New York Times, Time Magazine, Rolling Stone. I mean, you've definitely been around a lot of the people that are pushing narratives. So yeah,
absolutely, they were pushing narratives. But I thought at that time, like I said, I was politically a little naive. I thought they were the good guys challenging. They were the Fourth Ward. They were working to expose corruption and tell the truth. And once I got in there, I started working for the op-ed page of the New York Times, and I realized, like, the editors told me, like, every word we print here has to be vetted by the State Department. And I said,
"Oh, wow.
Yeah, I said, what if it's not true?" And I mean, what if the State Department is telling you what to say? Like, aren't you just like Pravda? I mean, you know better than Pravda. So wow. I did this piece, and it was written by Condoleezza Rice, who was the Secretary of State at the time. And this is right before the Iraq War, and she was promoting the Iraq War. Then I did another piece by John Bolton, and I realized, like, wow, I went from selling cigarettes to kids to selling war to everybody. I found myself in a war, and even worse moral crisis, where like my heroes who were in places like New York Times, I realized that they were nothing but mouthpieces for corporations that paid their bills, and for the government. And
wow.
And I just had another, come to Jesus moment where I said, I got to get out of here. At that time, it was like the internet was just getting going, as far as alternative news places and news aggregators, and it was like Drudge Report, Infowars, and a few other places. Like, they were just getting started, Yeah. And so I decided to reach out to some of them and provide illustration and write articles for them. And I started working for the good guys, people working in the health freedom movement to expose, the toxins in the food and the drugs. And I started working for writers and for filmmakers that make documentaries, and making movie posters for them. And I finally found, like, a place where I felt like I could sleep well at night,
Sure.
So I took a reduction in pay, but at the same time, it was worth it, for my conscience was clean. And then I did that for like 20 years or so. And then I had a personal crisis where my partner was laying in bed watching, there was this Obama movie, Obama produced it, called Leave the World Behind.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you know that one. It's just it's this weird, like, pre-programming apocalyptic, movie, and there's all this weird, like, woke propaganda, and like they said, whatever you do, don't trust white people. It was like, watching this thing, and my partner is getting stressed out, and I said, like, let's just turn this crap off, because I'm getting really like, I don't feel well. And I'm saying, let's just turn this off. All right, screw Obama. So
yeah.
But then all of a sudden she starts, like, convulsing, and she's super healthy, super fit, no medical problems. And she goes into, like, a straight convulsion, foaming at the mouth, eyes wide, staring right through me. And I felt so inadequate, Andrew. I felt like I didn't know what to do. Like, is she dying? Like, then she stopped breathing, and I'm I'm not a doctor, but I think breathing is pretty important. And anyway, then and my son was living with us, and I said, I yelled to him, call 911. He calls 911, and then on the phone I could hear, your call is very important to us. There's 8 calls ahead of you. And it was a robot. It was a freaking robot. And I'm thinking, oh my God, this poor girl's dying. And the robots are in charge. I can't talk to a human. I said, call again on my phone. He called, he got through, thank God. And I didn't know what to do, man. I just held her and like, I didn't know what to do.
What happened if that's okay if I ask?
Well, what happened, we found out later, she had a brain bleed, and it was formed by this malformation of cells in her brain, blood vessels and capillary. And yeah, and the blood doesn't like, brain doesn't like blood on it. It does not like it. And she went into a coma, and she almost died. 75% of people that happens to die.
Jeez.
And yeah. And by some miracle, I just prayed and prayed, and she's like, she had a long convalescence, but a year and a half she was struggling. She's a psychologist, and but thank God now she's like healthy and she's on her way to recovery, and she's doing much better. But that night, we both, decided to turn closer to God. I believe so. There was another part of the story. At one point when she was tensed up and convulsing, all of a sudden she started laughing, and all the tension went out of her body, and she was happy. I could tell this peace came over her whole body and her whole being. And I thought for a second, wait, is this a joke? But she's not that kind of joker like that. And I think she went to the other side. I swear to God, I think she went to the other side, and she was there. She was with her loved ones. She was at peace and with God. And for whatever reason, it wasn't her time. And then as soon as she went into this place of peace, she came back. She was only there for like, I don't know, maybe like 10, 15 seconds. And then she came back into our world, which is not.
Yeah. Wow.
And is filled with pain and suffering and everything else. So that was a spiritual awakening. I had always been a Christian, but I wasn't really, practicing or really devoted. So I also decided like this whole battle that we're facing, it's not going to be won politically. It's not going to be won on this temporal plane. It has to be fought. This is a spiritual battle between good and evil.
Sure.
And so everything I do now, I want to be a devotion to God and devotion to goodness, and to try to connect with the spirit of God that's in me.
Yeah, it's I think a lot of people are starting to realize that. I think that the modern world and postmodernism is, I've just been talking about postmodernism recently with my friend Sam, and from According to Sam podcast. And he makes this statement that he believes that the postmodern world is not an intellectual period in human history, and that we have gone completely off the rails as far as spirituality and civilization, having, care anymore about morals and principles and values and virtues and the Enlightenment principles that built the civilized world. And it seems to have been periodically, step by step, piece by piece, dismantled over time. And now we're in a place, for people in your generation, my generation, I'm in my 40s, that, Generation X that still remembers the pre-technologically advanced world. Everyone that came after our generation grew up with all this technology, and they're so used to it. They're so connected to it. And a lot of people are making these spiritual contentions now with all these stories, very similar to your story. I talk to people all the time that have very similar stories that they, maybe they were raised in a Christian household. They strayed from that and went and experienced the world and maybe exposed themselves to other belief systems. And for some reason, they always come back to being humbled by the one true God. It's a very common story these days, and I think it needs to happen more often. And I think it is happening more often than maybe the last 20, 30 years. And people really are starting to realize that whatever we're doing doesn't seem to be the right track. And so anyway, so I'm definitely interested in that kind of stuff. Like for example, your moral dilemma with working in advertising, or when you were talking about the war thing that you were pushing the war, was that when you were with Infowars, or did your stint on Infowars happen after all of that realization that you didn't like the PR advertising techniques?
Yeah, that happened after. So I was still working in the mainstream, and I had this. So I saw 9/11 happen. I lived downtown Manhattan, and
yeah, wow.
So the two things changed me. The 9/11 attacks. At first, I bought the whole official narrative, and then I started listening to some of these people. I got an assignment from the Village Voice to do. It was about like kind of making fun of these conspiracy theorists that were making documentaries at the time.
Mm-hmm.
So as part of my research for the project, I started listening to like Loose Change, and there was a few other documentaries, and watching them, going in prepared to think that these guys are crazy, right? Everybody knows it was Bin Laden and the end of story, right? And these guys were like, there was architects, engineers, physicists,
firefighters.
Yeah. Then there was people on the ground. I mean, and there was really smart people who just said, like, this story makes no sense. This story goes against the laws of physics. These buildings don't just fall like that. It doesn't happen that way.
Sure.
And I watched all three buildings fall perfectly into their footprint that day, and it makes no sense. I mean, you can go to architects and engineers for 9/11 Truth and watch all the documented proof and evidence scientifically that just that alone doesn't make sense, right?
Sure.
They got all the geopolitical stuff. Just on the science, right? Trust the science. So I did this piece, and then I submitted it to the 9/11 Museum because I said I talked to them and I said, you really need a piece in here that challenges the official narrative if you're collecting all this artwork that has to do with 9/11. And to their credit, they met me at the museum, and the curators put my piece in the permanent collection. And I don't know what they did with it. It might be like in a urinal somewhere, but it's it's somewhere in the museum. So yeah, that was, and then I worked with a lot of 9/11 truthers. They always put a label on you like truther, or anti-vaxxer, birther, or whatever. It's like, we're just trying to find out what really happened. And if you believe the official narrative about anything, I mean, you're pretty naive at this point.
Well, and in my opinion, the fact that they need, the fact that they promote an official narrative that anyone with any intelligence or curiosity and resolve to do the research and to look at the evidence, and with so many people arriving at the same conclusions, which is not the result of the official narrative, and the fact that these official narratives keep seeming to not be true, event after event, time after time, it makes you, it begs the question, what is it that our government officials are doing that they don't want us to know the truth about? Clearly, there's something that they are hiding on almost all of these big, terrible events that go on. So, and did you see any of that? I mean, because you spoke about how the media can be dishonest, and advertising and PR, they are using psychological techniques like, tugging on your heartstrings. Definitely manipulation of the mind is going on to get you to buy these products. So Can you talk about that a little bit? Like what kind of stuff specifically did you see go on that is obviously not the intent? The intent was not to be fair, balanced, honest, and truthful. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So there's so many, but like, there's so many psychological techniques going on because they're motivated by profit, right? And the
Sure.
profit motive. And I want to lean into the prophet motive, right? Spelled differently.
Sure.
Like, the prophet motive is what created the incredible artworks, the cathedrals and monuments of the Middle Ages and of the Dark Ages, even, and of the Renaissance. They didn't build those beautiful, incredible cathedrals to make money. They built them,
Mm.
and you can't build something that beautiful if you're worried about the bottom line, right? I mean, look at the monuments today, like the monument to 9/11. It's like a giant, black urinal. It's not uplifting in any way. It's like this hole that sucks you into the despair of hell, right? It's like,
Yeah.
it's not uplifting. And you go to those cathedrals and you look up. You don't look down to hell. You look up to heaven, right? So where you look is a big part of advertising. So they're sort of directing your focus and your vision. And it starts when you're a child, right? All those sugar cereals that are all poison now. We know they're all poison. And they would market those, like, one example, I worked on some cereal boxes, and they knew from psychological studies that kids will look at a smiling cartoon character with a face, and those are the boxes that sell the best. It was a big smiling cartoon character, and they pay extra in the stores to get them positioned at like the height of a little kid. So the little kid grabs it and then throws it in the shopping cart or gives it to mommy. So the marketing and manipulation starts at a very young age.
Yeah. Jeez.
And it's very sophisticated, but every product, there's some sort of psychological underpinning and behavioral science to it. And every marketing campaign, there's all these tricks, it's like, another example is like the rule of three, right? So you give people three choices, and most people, and you position your product to be in the middle, right? So there's like product A, they're no good. Product, for whatever reason, they're too expensive. Product C is too cheap and not good enough. And then we're right in the middle, right? Like
The happy
whatever.
medium.
Yeah, when you give people three choices, they almost always pick the one in the middle. So that's called rule of three. And there's all these techniques and rules that they go by, because humans we're very predictable animals, right? The AI now can predict what we're going to do before we do it because they've gleaned all this data about what we do and how we respond to things, and we respond positively. We're very predictable animals.
That's scary stuff. Yeah.
We respond positively to some things and negatively to others. And the definition of a psyop, I mean, the mother of all psyops was the COVID thing, because the definition of psyop is when something gets officially released and the message is universal and anybody who questions it is bad. You can't
It gets
question.
demonized every night in the media. Yep.
Demonized campaign of demonization, you're right, and also censorship and punishment, like taking your job or your business or your kid. I mean, what they did with that COVID was like everything I've seen between government and corporate America, like on steroids. Like it was unbelievable. Like I was censored and shamed and ridiculed and called names. And by the way, I was right about everything. I was trying to tell the truth, and not only with it. So the truth tellers, it's like what Orwell said: when a society starts to collapse, the people, or the further a society drifts from the truth, the more the truth tellers will be hated, right?
Yeah, they'll hate those that speak it. Yep.
And that's where we were with COVID. Like I'm not. Listen, these drug companies are making billions of dollars off these vaccines. I'm not making a penny. I'm trying to tell you the truth. These things are untested. These things are dangerous, and I was ridiculed, shamed, censored. I had interviews I did with doctors just talking about things they know for a fact from medical their medical practice, and they just boop, deleted it off YouTube. Said it violated the, without any evidence that it violated anything. They just made it disappear, put it in the memory hole.
Yeah,
Back
I
to
think that woke up a lot of people. Like you're right. I think COVID woke up a lot of people because there's way too many holes in that psyop storyline, and people sniffed it out. People were smart enough to see what they were doing shortly thereafter. So,
well, not enough people, but I mean, I
Yeah.
never got an apology. And by the way, the people who lied to us and said that the vaccine was, there were people lying, and it was coming from the mainstream media, and the drug who are paid for by, this is where it overlaps. Like when I did a lot of work for the drug companies, because there's only 2 countries in the world where advertising direct to consumer is legal with pharmaceutical products. It's America and New Zealand, I think. But they're like an unholy alliance, because the media is literally owned by the companies that make the vaccines. They provide much of their, if not most, of their advertising revenue. So there's a built-in.
Pfizer bought a lot. I remember Pfizer had an ad all the time, and you knew that Pfizer bought that ad space so that they could dictate the messaging for sure.
Brought to you by Pfizer.
Mhm.
So that unholy alliance created this like supernova propaganda, and the censorship campaign was just disgraceful. And like I said, the thing that really irritates me is that the people who lied and hurt people never got punished. We did. People trying to help people and tell the truth got punished, and the liars got rewarded. They would get, like, they just cut off my, my organic reach and all my platforms. Like, they just flatline, or they just took my page away, and it was just and nobody in the mainstream media ever got punished. Nothing happened to them, and and sadly, like, there's a lot of people. There's not enough people like us, Andrew. I wish there were.
Oh, I know.
I think the next one, I don't know. The last one, like, I don't know the percentage, but probably like 85% of people bought it all. This time, I think it'll be less, but it's still probably more than 50%.
Yeah, it's every time I talk about this kind of stuff, I think of Yuval Noah Harari when he famously said in that interview, he said, we've cracked the code basically, and AI is going to be able to hack the human mind and literally target market it through smartphones and social media and whatever, to where it's a 24/7 propaganda delivering device to everyone's brain, individual. And that's, people are saying these algorithms are taking over really, and AI is taking over because that is the algorithm essentially, because nobody believes the same thing anymore. Nobody looks for the facts or evidence. They're just so brainwashed by whatever their algorithm is telling them, and that doesn't mean that what they're being told is the truth. And that's happening to every single person that uses the technology. So it really makes you think, if this was really a CIA intelligence community, plan. I make the argument that when the television was released on the market in the 50s, right around World War II, I mean, that was the goal. They wanted to put messaging in your home, where they're telling you what they want you to think about what's going on, so that they could continue bombing the shit out of countries overseas.
Yeah,
So,
no, I mean, they call it programming, right? Television programming. Like, they're telling you what they're doing. We're trying to program you to think a certain way. I mean, it's just, once you're aware of it, it's like, you pull back the curtain and The Wizard of Oz, and you see, like, oh, it's all bullshit. It's all just, it's all a show. And it's not about a certain truth. They're doing what they're doing for a reason. Like you said, either promote a war, or to get nanotechnology injected into our bodies, and there's some sort of goal they have they don't let us in on, right? It's obtuse.
Sure.
And we need to have transparency. And that's why I worked, one of my gigs was working for RFK. I worked for him when he was running.
Yeah. Talk about that a little bit. I was getting ready to get to that here in a second, but yeah, tell me about that experience. That must have been amazing.
It was amazing, because I was working with these people who were like, they knew his father, right? Some of these people went back that far in politics. Sure. So they know how the game works. David Talbot, who wrote The Devil's Chessboard, one of the guys I'd be in these Zoom meetings with, and just really smart people. And I saw, man, what I saw again. Like I always underestimate how evil these people are.
Oh yeah,
They
I
will,
think everybody does. Yep.
they will do, but I saw it firsthand. Like they will do anything if they have to break the law. The media will have their back. The courts will have their back. They do whatever they want because they're ruthless. And I'll give them credit for one thing. They're determined and they're dedicated. I mean, they're like the demons, but they're very hardworking, very focused demons. And
Yep.
they've been very
The
effective.
principalities in the Bible, right? Anyone that doesn't worship the one true God and worships idols and idolatry, that
Yeah,
still goes on to this day, and a lot of people don't ever think of it in those terms, but you know, that's exactly what they talked about in the Bible. You know,
yeah, it's happening now, and it's just not just in this country, all over the world. Like in Germany, the AfD, which is their right wing party, I think 7 top AfD politicians just suddenly and mysteriously died in the last couple of months, and right before an election. And I mean, some people think they're just being eliminated. And
Mm.
there's a theory, you want to talk about conspiracy theories, that some of the COVID, something in some sort of nanoparticle in the COVID injection um, can be triggered by like a 5G gun pointed at somebody to kill them.
Yeah,
And
I've heard this story before. How they can target with the like whatever your bio code, they can get attached to your bio code, and they could send
yeah,
an energetic pulse in a room full of people, and it wouldn't affect anyone. It would only affect you, and that's
yeah,
crazy how all these 5G towers went up right as the push for mass vaccination was happening during COVID. Yeah, very interesting how all that timeline lines up.
it all ties together. And I think, I mean, listen, the vaccines I think damage people's fertility because they want to depopulate the earth. So that's what I mean. You can look at the numbers of miscarriages, the sperm counts, the fertility rates. Everything has plummeted in the last 5 years. You know, it's not a coincidence.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so, and again, I mean, the dirty tricks I saw, like the Democrats in New York are just so dirty, and they control everything. They control the press. They control the courts, right? They control this machine.
Mm-hmm.
That's why my mom Donnie is going to win because you try to run as anything other than Democrat, like good luck. They will destroy you. So when RFK was running independently as third party, the Republicans pretty much left us alone. You know, Trump would say a nasty thing about him once in a while, but that was it. The Democrats changed the ballot legitimacy laws, how to get on the ballot. They changed the number from like I don't know, like 20,000 to 120,000, and then they had moles come in the campaign to collect to volunteer to collect signatures to get on the ballot. Right, you need a certain amount of signatures, and they would purposely break the laws knowingly to try to get to not only to besmirch RFK's campaign, but also to get his whole name off the ballot because he's disqualified because he was illegally gathering signatures. So they did dirty things like that and just endless lawsuits. And then the media was lying about him every day, just whole cloth making up stories about this guy that I know weren't true and demonizing him 24 hours a day. So it
They
was
still
just,
do. Media still demonizes him.
oh, they still do it. I know. Like today, I think he just got thimerosal out of the vaccines because it's proven through studies to be poisonous and cause brain damage to children and mental
Mm-hmm.
retardation. They've proven it. Yet, I mean, you want your baby to be retarded? Like these people, how could you be against that? Like it's like the people you see the people taking when the study, it was a Harvard study, by the way, it wasn't RFK came up with it, that
Mm-hmm.
Tylenol, causes birth defects and all this other
Oh
stuff.
yeah.
So then all these insane women started gobbling Tylenol like while they're 9 months pregnant. You're hurting your own baby and maybe even killing yourself to say "f you" to RFK. Like what?
When I
What?
see those people, when I see those people, it reminds me. I was just getting ready to bring this up when you talked about COVID. Is that they bitch about fascism all the time, but they conveniently look, and I'm talking about the left now. And I'm not a two-party system guy at all. I'm not a big fan of Republicans either, but specifically the Democrats in this situation, it's God mode level hypocrisy to me to push for mask mandates and 6 feet apart, and you can't see your grandparents dying in the nursing home because whatever, you have to get the vaccine. If you don't get the vaccine, you get fired, you get demonized in the media. Basically all these things I'm describing is dictionary definition fascism. Yet now they say that they're fighting Donald Trump and authoritarianism and fascism from the right. And I just every time I hear it, I laugh hysterically because I'm like, you people,
Yeah.
do you think that people's memories are so short that we've forgotten what you said and did and acted like during the COVID when you were pushing fascist action by government during that time? It's ridiculous. And people that's the kind of stuff that people are waking up to, is this just blatant hypocrisy and this holier than thou mentality from a lot of people that have been brainwashed. Yuval Noah Harari was correct. They have hacked the human mind. When you are willing to put so much time and effort into hating Donald Trump or hating Republicans or whatever, that you're willing to sacrifice friendships, family member relationships, you're estranged from your family, you don't invite your nieces and nephews to the house anymore, you don't celebrate holidays together anymore. That is a clever way to dismantle Western civilization, in my opinion. And it's working. This AI takeover of the mind is working.
You're totally right, Andrew, because I've been around a long time, and I'm telling you, it's not a coincidence that we were never this divided before the internet age, right?
100%.
Cell phone age. Like, oh, what a coincidence. Now we all want to kill each other. You know, we weren't like that in the 90s or the 80s or 70s. Like, I was around, and people weren't like that. Yeah, you disagree with people. You might not even like them, but, you just realize, well, we're all Americans. Like, all right, you win this election, we'll win the next one. It's like a seesaw,
Yeah.
And today, like, they want to shoot you in the neck, and literally they're going like this, like, we're going to kill you because we disagree. I've never seen anything like it. And you're right. It's coming from, we're being programmed through the algorithms, but I think it's even deeper than that. I think that the schools, because a certain ideology took over the indoctrination.
That's a big part of it too, boy.
Big part of it too, absolutely. But the other thing is there's something even more sinister happening technologically. I think that's happening below the threshold of our perception, where there's some kind of technology that's like interfacing with people's brains. Because I know with quantum computing, like any sort of electrical impulse is able to access what. So your brain has electrical impulses. So it can, and your brain doesn't have a firewall, right? So that whole idea of the tinfoil hat, that's where it comes from. Like, don't get into my brain. And I think that we're already at that point where it's like, you probably should be walking around with a Faraday cage on your head because God knows.
They already have them, bro. They already have them. I've seen the stocking cap advertisements that are like, prevent yourself from getting affected by radio electromagnetic pulse or from Wi-Fi, blah, blah, blah. Like, they're basically Faraday bags for your head, like in these stocking caps that they're I've seen ads for these. It's like really happening.
Yeah, and now it's happening, man. We're in a sci-fi movie. Like, people don't understand. Like, it's not like, oh, in the future. It's like, no, we're in the future.
It's here.
Like
it's here.
Apocalyptic sci-fi movie where the robots are about to take over the world. It's like you're living through it, dude. So, and people aren't even aware of it. It's like, it's crazy. Like, I mean, I don't know. I feel like sometimes, for whatever reason, like, I'm ahead of the curve on some of this stuff. Like, everything people are talking about now, like, I knew it 25 years ago, like Epstein's Island and all the corruption. I knew all about this stuff 25 years ago. And I would tell people, if you're ahead of your time, it's not fun, Andrew, because everybody says you're crazy and nobody listens to you. And then 20 years later, they're like, and they never say you were right. They just say, oh yeah, of course. Everybody knows Epstein's Island. It's like, you said I was crazy. You said I don't know what I'm talking about. Bill Gates would never go to Epstein Island. It's like, yeah, okay. Yeah, he's so wonderful. But yeah, listen, I'm not a partisan either. Like, that's why I always work for third party candidates. I worked for uh, Ron Paul when he ran, and
Nice.
I worked for RFK, so I always vote for the third party because I know they're both corrupt. They're both, part of this uniparty. But the Democrats, I used to be a Democrat, but the Democrats, like I didn't leave Democrats. They left me. They left sanity. They went, I don't know, they went to cuckoo land. Like,
Sure.
what are you talking about? And you could listen, you could watch videos of Democrats 20 years ago, like Obama and Hillary and other people, Schumer from 20 years ago, and they sound like Trump because they're talking common sense. You can't have an open border with 100 million people coming through because we don't know what they're going to do, and that's not how America works. Just basic common sense, and they were saying the exact same things he says, but now it's become fascism, and these people don't even know. If you ask them to define fascism, they can't even do it. So
yeah, they can't do it.
they don't know what the hell it is. They don't know anything about it, but they know Trump's a fascist. Or what's fascism? They'll just scream at you or try to shoot you.
Well, it's funny is that one of the things that really gets them crazy. I've been loving hitting these super far left, whatever woke people with is the fact that Obama deported more illegal immigrants during his time as the president than Donald Trump has thus far. You bring that up to them, well, they're trying to claim that ICE is the new Gestapo and Trump's, literally Hitler or whatever. And you're like, well, what about how many people Obama deported? Their smoke starts, flying out of their ears and their head explodes. They can't even take that information in.
I feel your pain, man, because I've been had those kind of conversations too. People, they want to murder you. By the way, if you really study that in depth, Obama was doing it with less jurisprudence and less legal recourse for asylees than Trump does. He just kicked them out of the country. But if you tell them that, their head spins around. They can't process it because they've been told the same lie over and over and over again. Like
or not told. Or the reason why they never heard it on the news and they never internalized that fact is because the news never told them Obama was deporting all these people. But they'll tell you that Trump deported, 15 today, 25 tomorrow, 200 yesterday. I mean, it's just like COVID. Remember the COVID death numbers? Whenever the media just keeps pumping you with it, that's the agenda. They want you to believe it, whether or not it's true.
Absolutely, 100%. And I just wish more people, were like you and were aware of it, because some people you just can't reach. And I think this is another conspiracy theory. I think I've seen people change. Like they're not the same person they were before they took that vaccine 5 years ago. They've got more demented and less able to have independent critical thinking. They speak in slogans, and that's like a decline of intellect when all you
it's a bar right there, man. That's so true. They speak in slogans. That's
from the river to the I was at the protests last year, shouting from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. And I asked them, which river, which sea? None of them knew it. Not one person. They just shouted the slogan, from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. What river? They had no clue. Is it the Hudson River? They don't even know. They have no geopolitical, historical context. They just know the slogan. And it's a catchy slogan, right? It rhymes. You can make a song out of it, And there's just, and then listen, I understand that young energy to rebel, but it's being misdirected into the wrong places. Like not only to the wrong places, but it's being misdirected into places that are the bad guys, the people who are trying to hurt you. Like RFK is trying, I know for a fact, he just wants safer drugs and food for you and your children, right? That's all he wants. And he wants to end the corruption between the government agencies, the regulatory agencies that are totally corrupt, and the big pharmaceutical companies and the big food companies, the big agro companies. Like everybody should be in favor of that.
It's like common sense stuff. Yeah. It shouldn't be political. It seems like a no-brainer for everybody. Everybody wins.
Everybody wins. And it's like, how could you be against that? But they just put this label. He's a conspiracy theorist. He's a tinfoil hat guy. He's anti-science. It's all. And the guy did his homework. I mean, he doesn't just say something. He'll have 10 studies to back it up from peer reviewed Harvard. I mean, serious studies. he's not making this stuff up in his mother's basement. All right. It's like he knows what he's talking about, but people have been so indoctrinated that you can't, it's easier to lie to somebody than to convince them they've been lied to. Right. And we're in that position now. People are lied to so much that, like, when you try to convince them of it, these held beliefs that they have, that maybe they're wrong, it's almost impossible.
Yeah.
And
I think people, sorry, really quick. I think people want to have faith in the institutions and in the systems, and whenever people that are more fearful or live in more, have more anxiety, I guess, than some, the rest of us that are fearless enough to face the realities of some of this stuff, it really does test the bounds of their mind. Like it can make people snap when they realize that everything they thought was real and the way things actually are might not be the case. And whether or not they were brainwashed by propaganda, or regardless of what level of brainwashing has happened to them, that by itself can make people that are otherwise rational people really be like, what's real anymore? People snap. They might get suicidal when they realize that things aren't as they've been told. I think it's real tough for a lot of people.
Oh, absolutely. And listen, I went through, dark night of the soul myself because I was a mainstream guy. I believed what I heard on the news. I thought it was just true. And so then when I started, questioning it and going down these rabbit holes and realizing, oh my God, I lied to about everything. At first it's very demoralizing and humbling because you have to admit that I was wrong. People don't like to admit they were wrong or I was lied to. And yeah, it's painful, but you got to push through that, man, because are you really want to know the truth? Like I want to know what's really going on. And if somebody can prove to me that RFK is wrong, I'll say he's wrong. But I've never seen anybody do it. They just call him names. Or they say things that are patently not true and not backed up by science, and they state it as if it's fact. And it's just been the last 5 years have been brutal, man, because I say I've never seen it. I've never seen it this bad. And I think those vaccines did something to people's brains because their brains don't work as well as people's brains worked 20 years ago. Yeah. I'm telling you, I know smart people that now they sound like idiots. And they were smart, and I don't know what happened. And it happened in the last 5 years. So
yeah, I have friends that description is accurate to where, I mean, I've seen some of their social media posts change. First of all, I've seen their social media posts change a lot over the course of the past 5-6 years. And what's really troubling for me is people that I've known for 20 plus years, and I see this happen to them. You're onto something with, maybe if it's not the vaccine, it's the news media, it's the psychological propaganda tactics. All that stuff is working. It's literally working, and people don't want to admit that they've been deceived. And
and it all starts with what you mentioned before, fear. I think this is fear-based mind control, right? The COVID thing was, man, they found the perfect vehicle for propaganda because people were scared to death. You tell them, if you see your grandma, you're going to kill her, and everybody's a threat, and you're a threat, and anybody that gets a vaccine. That, first of all, that makes no sense. Like, if you believe in the vaccine and the mask, what are you worried about? How do I pose a threat to you? I mean, it doesn't even make sense, like, at any level. Forget about a lot of those. It's not true. It just doesn't make sense. Like, you had to go to a restaurant, right? You could if you walked in a restaurant without a mask, people would scream at you. But if you sat down, you're fine. Like, what? Wait a minute. You were going to murder me walking in with no mask, but now it's okay. Like, COVID knows I'm sitting. I mean, none of it made any sense. But they lost their ability to have just rational cognitive thinking, and it was like I felt like I was in a movie. I felt like I was in like a joke, like a candid camera they used to have, where like one guy wasn't in on the joke and everybody else was, and that's what I felt like. Yeah,
I don't think you're alone. I think a lot of people felt that way, and to this day, I mean, I can't believe that what they succeeded with the COVID event in getting so many people to believe that. I mean, we just defied logic, like you said. And I think it was probably a litmus test. The people that perpetrated all this and went to the bank with all this vaccine government, contract. I mean, when the government says they're going to give you a contract, you're paid, you're set. Like, Jeff Bezos isn't the millionaire that he is, or billionaire that he is, because of only strictly Amazon's success. No. He got a government contract for Alexa to be put in everybody's home. And same thing with Elon Musk. Elon Musk's company's got government contracts. That's monopoly. They dominate their industry at that point, So
so
crazy. But they're taking over.
Absolutely. And the other thing is, the problem with the vaccines is that the PrEP Act, I think it was 1984, 85, the vaccines makers were spending so much money on vaccine injury lawsuits that they went to the government and said, we can't make vaccines anymore because of the liability we have. We're not making money because we're paying it all out in these lawsuits. And they said, we need to be indemnified. We need liability protection. So the government granted them in the PrEP Act 100% legal immunity. You could have a vaccine put in your arm and drop dead, and you can't sue the drug companies.
That says a lot. I mean, geez.
It's the only product in human history that has that advantage, and it's outrageous, and it's insane. So then, now they know they don't have legal liability. What happened right in the 1980s? The vaccine schedule went from a handful to now it's up to like 72. It's like, so let's just make more vaccines because we can't get hurt by it. We can only make billions. Nobody can sue us.
Yep.
And again, it's like it's the profit motive, and the government gave them that green light to just unleash hell on us, and that's what they did.
Yeah, I think you're right. It's every direction, like you said. Every time you look into something, a truth is revealed that is very troubling. I'll never forget my mom when I was a kid. She said this my entire life, but she has always said to me anytime I get into deeper conversations, she's a very devout Christian woman. But she always said, the more I learn about what's real in the world, she's like, the more I wish I didn't know. And she's like, that's why I just give it to God. And she's very devout. She goes to church every Sunday. She finds peace in that life, in this crazy, demon-ridden world. And that's how she operates. And that's why, even for me, I mean, I strayed from the church quite a bit in my younger years when I left, my mom's house and my dad's house. And but again, I feel like so many people that have rational, logical minds find their way back. They find their way back to those principles and those lessons of history, those parables from, back in Jesus' time, the Roman Empire. And you start understanding a lot of those scriptures more when you become a fully functional, mentally connected adult. I think it's more difficult to understand. I didn't understand so much of it even when I was learning it when I was a kid, going to confirmation classes and trying to understand what these stories meant. And I think that now that I'm older and I'm wiser, I'm starting to see, maybe mom and dad and their lessons for me weren't so horrible and terrible. Maybe they were onto something. Maybe this is how we stay civilized as a United States of America, a united country, is to have a common belief system. Doesn't matter what that belief system is, but we all got to get on the same page and buy in. It's like, I'm a big football fan. It's the same thing with the team mentality. And when I was in the military, same thing. Team mentality. Like if you're not going to buy in and be on the same page and be looking down the field the same way together, seeing the same goals and outcomes and knowing what it's going to take to get there, that's what keeps a society civilized and cohesive and cooperative and respectful towards one another. And I pray that comes back, because we have lost that somewhere along the way.
Well, absolutely. Your mom sounds like a great woman, but and here's the thing. You touched on something really critical. So if you talk to an atheist, they're usually miserable, right? it doesn't bring them any peace. It doesn't,
Joy.
when they're in times of suffering, they curse God or they curse the idea of God, and they believe that nothing created everything, which is absurd to me. How could everything come from nothing? It doesn't make any sense. Like, where is this factory making, all the hydrogen and helium and carbon in the universe? There's something beyond the natural world.
There has to be. Yep.
But beyond that, this sort of waning religiosity and this waning faith in people, we're programmed in our makeup to have to believe in something, right? So Deepak Chopra calls it the God-shaped hole. Like, when you stop having faith in God, you have to fill that hole with something. There's a hole left in you that has to be filled. So what do they fill it with? People fill it with either drugs or porn or, intersectional politics, wokeism. You have to fill it with something. And they're filling it with this. They're taking something that should be good and true and filled with light, and they're filling the hole with darkness. Yeah, that's why.
I call it. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, that's why when you see these people, these protests, they're so angry and they're so unhappy and they're screaming and they
deranged, unhinged.
Yeah, because unlike your mother, who uses her faith to find peace and just says, "I give it up to God because I can't figure it all out," they have no peace.
Yeah, that's true. And I was getting ready to say, I call that filling of the hole with darkness Luciferian gratification. And in our culture, and especially with social media now, it perpetuates it on such a grand scale that it is changing culture and society. With the OnlyFans, any young girl that's attractive in this day and age is monetized, and I mean, she but by the time she gets to an age where she's going to wish that maybe she had a family or, whatever. And I'm speaking generally here. I know not everybody, there are exceptions to the rule. And I'm not trying to say that women are so off track that they're ruined or anything like that. But there is something in feminism and in this changing of traditional gender roles, I guess, for lack of a better word, that is making people check out of society. Men don't even want to date or get married anymore. There's never been so many single and unwed people that are childless in society. I hear these stories and these podcasters talking about this all the time, and I never really thought about it, the seriousness and the gravity of it, until just recently. I always kind of just was like, oh, I think you guys are probably taking it too far. Like that can't be right. But then you start hearing these podcasters now hitting you with evolutionary psychology and the statistics of what is real. And now they're saying that a lot of these companies and bankers are having this focus groups where they're projecting that in the next 10 years, over 50% of women from age 18 to 27 or 29 or 30 are going to be unwed and childless. I mean, that is going to change society and culture in ways that I don't think people are ready for. And that's crazy. Well, that's crazy to me. I did not give that fact and that reality credit until very recently. And that's another thing that just makes me go, what are we doing?
Yeah, well, that's all. It comes back to the program we talked about. Like, they're being programmed that families are bad and kids are bad and abortion is good and transgender is good and heteronormative is bad. And we're a binary species. Like, do whatever you want. I don't care what you do. But if we don't replace ourselves, by the way, there is one group that's replacing themselves mightily, and that's the Muslims, because they do have faith.
Yeah. I've actually heard, so I live in Minneapolis real quick. I've actually heard at some of these protests, some of the Somalian people that live here in Minneapolis. We have a big Somali population. And I've heard some of these young kids say that angrily at these protests, like, in 15, 20 years, you people won't be here anymore. We're going to breed you out of existence. Like, they're telling people this loud and proud at these protests. They are banking on that the Muslim religion and Islam is going to take over, because there ain't going to be anybody left.
That's what they're listen, this is conquest by demographics, and they're playing the long game, and they know they're right because it's really simple math. You stop having kids, we all stop. Christians stop having kids, and then Muslims have 5 to 8 kids. Like it's just a matter of time.
Numbers game. Yep.
It's a numbers game, and they know it, and they're playing the long game. And the thing that gets me is like the same people who worship Hamas and the Muslims, like are the same people who say they're in favor of LGBTQ rights and women's rights. Like these people hate you. They're using you for a long game agenda. Like, by the way,
Absolutely.
when they take power, you're the first people they're going to kill.
Yep, you're gone. Useful idiots. Yep.
You're useful idiots. They're going to be laughing when they chop your head off. So, I mean, you talk about strange bedfellows. That's one of the strangest political alignments I've ever seen in my life was the far left and Islam, because they don't agree about anything except that they hate, Christendom and they hate America.
Yep.
And they hate that's all they agree on. That's it.
Yeah.
Everything, they're completely diametrically opposed, yet, somehow because of...
Shows how deep the brainwashing goes. I mean, that's another perfect example is that the people that are being used, the useful idiots, they can't even connect the dots that these people that they think that they're aligned with they're polar opposite, on politics, on religion, on how they think society should be run and gender roles. I mean, boy, the disconnect is vast.
Yeah. The greatest example is I saw a guy with a sign, Queers for Palestine. It's like most Palestinians by far believe that if you're openly gay, you should be either arrested or killed.
Yeah.
And you're holding, you want to go to Palestine? Have fun. So we're living in very strange times. I just look at it now like I'm watching this like dystopian sci-fi movie, it's almost like we've manifested this scientific dystopia from all of our attention we've given it to films and to movies and to books and to our attention, and it's coming true now. And now it's a spiritual war, right? It's like good versus evil. Like, which side are you on? Because you better pick a side, because evil is winning in the culture war. But at least we're seeing some pushback now. And I just pray that God sees us to a glorious future.
Yeah. And that's what I think the good Lord intended ever since, the stories in the Bible and the biblical times. I mean, it's I know it's hard for a lot of people to take faith seriously, and it's hard for them to understand why so many people choose to believe that even if the stories aren't factually accurate or told, the oral traditions passed down through the generations. I always say that sometimes it can be a telephone game and people take certain parts out, and certain kings want to hide certain parts from their people. And it's hard to really know what the true original spiritual teachings were, because humans are fallible and we are going to ruin the message over time. And I think that happens to an extent, but I think that it's times like this, tribulations, turmoil, where people start realizing that if I'm going to find anything resembling happiness and joy and community, togetherness, putting family as being of the utmost importance to build strong communities, strong societies, there has to be a common belief system. And I don't know if it's Christianity, and if there's going to be a big pushback on Christianity, okay, fine, maybe it's got to be something else, but it is a spiritual war that we are moving towards. And I would make the argument that it's the same spiritual war that was going on with the human race on this planet ever since the time of Jesus Christ in the Roman Empire. And even before that, it's the same story that just keeps being retold and rehashed in the exact same way over time. It makes you wonder. I don't know if if you've ever thought about simulation theory, but it makes me what really made me think about this deep thought was Ray Dalio's book, Principles for Dealing with the Changing World Order. And he says every 80 to 100 years, it looks like human history is literally just the same story happening in cycles time and time and time again. It makes you wonder, maybe we are on, on some mainframe computer in some, intellectual designer's mind. Maybe we are just a wisp in the mind of God, right? I don't know. I'm going deep right now. Makes you think,
We're just a dream of God, maybe, or whatever this cosmic consciousness is. The universe is giant mind, right? Like you think about each sun is almost like a neuron, and there's like plasma waves that shoot from neuron to neuron, from sun to sun, and it's like the whole universe is a gigantic brain, and that mind is the mind of God in my mind, and we're connected to it, but we're connected to that infinite power too. And you're right. It's interesting. Like history repeats every 80 years, and that's about the lifespan of a human. So. Mm-hmm. There's this what do they call it? The fourth turning we're in, right? We're in the end game of.
I almost bought that book the other day. I just saw it at Barnes and Nobles. Oh my God, that's so funny that you brought that up. I was looking at it. I was told about that book, and I was like, I got to pick this book up because it was almost like serendipitous that I wasn't even looking for it, but as I was browsing, I saw it. So, and now you just brought it up again. It's crazy. I gotta check that book out.
Check that book out because that really goes into detail talking about what you're talking about, these cycles of history. And we're in the fourth turning, which means we're in the end game of civilization as we know in this moment in history. But there's technology has made a quickening possible. I think that's what it's done. What might have taken, longer before is now happening. Like we're seeing this accelerated
exponential. Yep. That's
a quickening of everything because of AI and because of super intelligence. Everything happens faster, and because of instant communication, like things happen slowly. When it took you 2 months to talk to somebody in England, from here, now it takes, a nanosecond. So
yeah,
it's a quickening, and we're in it. But man, this is evil exists to give us a purpose, to fight evil, right? So we're in an interesting time in history, maybe the most interesting. So we're blessed in that way.
Yeah, I think that I've always said that. Me and my friend Sam, again from According to Sam podcast, he and I agree that the turn of the millennium, the year 2000, was kind of the 80s and 90s were the pinnacle of American, decadence and the best that could be enjoyed, the best years that could be enjoyed in the American experience. And then after the turn of the millennium, we turned towards another dark age. Postmodernism became a thing, and this culture war started happening, and the information war started happening. And we kind of took this conversation down a different deep road. But before we go, I did want to ask you about your time at Infowars. I saw in your bio, what did you say, working with Little Hitler? I was going to ask you, who's Little Hitler at Infowars? I must know.
That's what, that's what they call, Trump is Big Hitler. Alex is like Little Hitler because.
Oh, yeah. I was wondering if it was Alex.
This idea that the Nazis is so ridiculous. I started working for Alex when George Bush was still president. So it was like he was very much critical of the Iraq War and of 9/11. Sure, yeah. So I came out of thinking, like, if anything, he's anti-Republican because he was extremely critical of Bush. I mean, accusing him of all kinds of crimes and lies and everything else, and Dick Cheney and all those guys. He was not, carrying water for them by any stretch, just the opposite. So this idea that he's like some right-wing fascist Nazi, it's so ridiculous. So I worked for him for 10 years, and I was down in the studio, a few times in Texas, and he's a great guy. I mean, he's what you see. He's real. I mean, he talks like that off air and on air. He's like he's passionate about this. He's a passionate Christian. And he believes like this is his calling, is to get the truth out there. And I think he's done a hell of a job, and he's been persecuted more than probably anybody on the planet for it. So that shows me that he's, to me, that's how you know who the good guys are. People were getting persecuted mercilessly, like, because
sure.
It's not fun, believe me, to take on hundreds of lawsuits and to have your family threatened and to always be, you got to wear a bulletproof vest everywhere you go. It's like, and then trying to
his
ruin
resolve is you can't take the work ethic away. That's for sure. He's been that guy for ever since he was in Richard Linklater's movie Waking Life, way back in the day. Yeah. Since he was a young man, he's been the same guy. Yeah, I respect that about AJ. Sometimes I wonder if the big club got to him. But I like that you have firsthand account. You know the man personally, and so I'm going to take your word for it more than my stupid theory. So
yeah, no, I think listen, I don't know for sure, but after what I saw what they did to him, like the way they tormented him and still tormenting him, it's like if he was one of them, like why would they be torturing this guy? Like the only reason he still survives is because he has this superhuman, will. Like you talked about his work ethic. It's also
that is for sure.
I will not surrender. So I don't think he's.
That's punk rock. I respect that, boy. I ain't taking that away from him.
Yeah. So I mean, if he was with them, like I really don't think they'd be torturing him and tormenting him, and 100 articles a day coming out saying that he's like Hitler. So it's like that's a good point. Gives him credibility because you try to find one article that doesn't say he's like the devil in mainstream news out of the hundreds of thousands of articles, you can't find one. Yeah. So if he was working with them, they'd be trying to soften his image, and they're not trying to do that at all. So yeah, to me, he has credibility, but I don't know for certain. Who knows? Like he's definitely like, the spooks might have threatened his family and said like, we'll make a compromise with you. Who knows? But I trust him. I do. And it comes to the end of the day, like say you can trust him or not, I would trust him.
I like hearing that because I want to trust him. Like you said, he's been, conspiracy OG, man. Him, Bill Cooper, Jordan Maxwell with the occult stuff. Like there's Santos Bonacci. There's a lot of people that won't shut up, are continuing to be persecuted. I mean, Julian Assange, right? That their will and their resolve is unchanging, unwaverable. And I have the utmost respect for that because that's what we need to fight this culture battle. That's what we need to fight this information war is enlightened, intelligent voices that do not have the fear and will not stay quiet because people are putting the fear of God in them. And they're going to possibly end up being martyrs for truth, just like your Charlie Kirk's, right? It happens, and the world needs it now more than ever because if all of those voices, like you, like me, people in this genre of podcasting, conspiracy, whatever, if our voices are silenced, it's over. I don't see, but I already fear that free speech is going to be a thing of the past in the near future. So
absolutely, I totally agree with that. It's already happening in England. Forget about it. Like your podcast be banned and you probably be arrested. So would I. But the other thing is that these people who censor us or try what they did to Charlie Kirk, right? Like they made a martyr out of him. They elevated his voice. They amplified his voice. So
100%.
When you try to shoot a guy in the neck, I mean, that was a symbolic thing, like right in the throat. Like you need to shut up forever. But what they did with that shot is it just amplified his voice. People who never heard of him now know about him, and they're watching his videos, and they're starting their own, crusades. So
sure, it
backfired tremendously. And some people think that was on purpose. I don't think so, but who knows, man?
It's tough. It's tough to find the truth these days.
Well, yeah, we're in a post-truth world. So that's why, because they lied to us about so much and they've lost their credibility, I'm talking about the institutions, that everybody does like 1,000 different theories about why Charlie Kirk died because nobody believes the official story. It might be true. I don't know.
And there's precedent for that. Yeah, that's true. That might be the plan, is to confuse everybody. I mean, two quotes really quick I'd always think about on this topic is when Obama said in that famous speech, if you flood the public square with enough raw sewage that people lose faith in their family, their friends, their institutions, he said the game is won. He basically gave you the game that's what they're trying to do. They want the conspiracy theorizing. They want people questioning everything and not they're making it very difficult for people to find the truth on purpose. That's one thing. And then another quote that I always think of is William Casey, former head of the CIA, said, "We will know that our disinformation campaign is complete when everything the American people believe is a lie." So they're telling you, they intend to misdirect you, hoodwink you, smoke and mirrors you, and get you to believe things that simply are not the truth. And it's happening. It's crazy.
Oh, it's happening, man. That's for sure. We're in this post-truth world. We can't, and it's going to get worse because now you have AI with all the deep fake stuff that is going to get so convincing. You'll be able to see, they're predicting like by next year, there'll be more fake video online than actual video. So I can't believe it hasn't been done yet, but all you got to do is have a video that's incredibly believable of a candidate, using the N-word or something, like the day before the election, you put it out everywhere.
Yeah.
And
October, surprise.
Yeah. So, and then, the margins are 1%. So only 1% of people have to have their vote changed because of that and believe it to change an election. So I can't believe it hasn't been done yet, but I guarantee you it's coming, where you're going to see deepfakes used for political maneuvering, and it's going to change history.
Absolutely. I think you're onto something with that, especially with the whole Peter Thiel Palantir thing, like we were talking about. I mean, the guy's obsessed with the Antichrist. I mean, these tech bros, these big tech giants are clearly into the spiritual realm. Whether or not it's the dark or the light that they espouse, it does not look good or sound good when I hear these guys talking. So it'll be very interesting to see how all this stuff plays out in the future. And I'm going to strap on my seatbelt and grab my popcorn, and I'm going to keep doing this podcast until they make me shut up. So,
good man.
Yeah. So before we go, I wanted to play. I'm going to share the screen real quick. I'm going to play this video of your book. I want to promote your book, and I love the title, "The Thought Crimes of Anthony Freda." Let me bring this in. I want to play this for everybody real quick.
Thanks, man.
Yeah, let's take a look at this. Amazing artwork, man. Jeez.
Thank you.
That looks awesome, man. I love your art. I'm going to check that out immediately after we get off line here. That's awesome.
Thanks, Andrew. Thank you so much.
Real quick, talk about that real quick before we go. How did you get the idea to compile all that artwork and put it in that book?
Well, I've been doing it for 40 years, and I realized I got a lot of work here. Probably could make a book. So
yeah, that's awesome.
Kind of a no-brainer for me, but I've also, there's a lot of stuff that's been censored and demonized, and a lot of controversial stuff. So the book is not out yet, but it'll be out hopefully early next year.
Awesome. Well, before we get out of here, let people know where they can find your work or anything you want to promote, and where people can go or should reach out to get in touch with you. If you want people to get in touch with you, now's the time. Let us know where we can find your stuff.
Yeah, go to anthonyfreda.com as links to all my stuff. If you want to purchase my work or just find out more about my thought crimes, that's where you go.
All right, fantastic. Well, Anthony Freda, sir, thank you so much for joining me on the show today. It was a awesome conversation, and please come back in the future. I've been telling all my guests that in the future I plan on doing panel shows where I have maybe 4, 5, 6 of us all do a roundtable, and everyone just kind of shoots the breeze about the craziness that's going on in the world from their perspectives. And I always love, I find that I learn a lot just by hearing people telling their stories. So if you would be willing to, I'd love to have you back on the show in the future for sure.
Anytime, Andrew. Thanks.
All right. That's the show for today for Mr. Anthony Freda, and for yours truly, Andrew for America. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. I love you guys. Take care of each other out there, and we'll see you next time. This has been episode 243 of the Politics and Punk Rock Podcast, entitled "The Thought Crimes of Anthony Freda. We'll see you next time.